Dr. Folkers, how are you today?
What's going on? Good, man. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing well. I just got back from a mountain bike ride. We have 3 more days this week where it's going to be in the 60s, and then it looks like it's dropping down into the 40s for a high, and we're going to have some 20s and some snow. So I'm trying to eck out those last few mountain bike rides before winter.
Yeah, we're right behind you. So we're in Nebraska. So I'm just east of you. So we kind of get that residual cold right after you guys get it. So it's getting cold here too. So I'm trying to get it out as much as I can. I mean, it's sunny out, but I went out. It's windy and kind of brisk. So it's getting definitely changing in climates.
I feel like this time of year too, the wind picks up and it's like blowing in the new season.
Yes, yeah, I feel that. I was just getting gas, and it's like, woo, I have shorts on still, which people kind of look at me, but kind of weird. But yeah, I feel that chill coming through. Definitely.
Oh yeah. So Dr. Jacey Folkers has become a good friend, and he is the doctor on staff at BLOKES, which is a lab testing, peptide and hormone replacement therapy company. And I'm so stoked that I crossed paths with you and Josh, and we've had some really, really, really good talks about testosterone, health span, lifespan, supplementation, some protocols of the best way to live your life to, boost some of these hormones that make you feel good. So let's dive right into it. I'd love to hear
Absolutely.
kind of how you structure your days to optimize your mind, body, and spirit. So, training, diet, supplementation. What is your goal? What is your intention with everything you do? And B, walk me through some of the protocols.
Yeah, and just to back up, so what kind of got me really interested in this space is, I'm in my 40s. I'll actually be 48 in January. So, about 5 years ago, I went to a doctor friend of mine and got my blood tested, and my testosterone was in kind of like the 450s at the time. And I felt symptoms of low testosterone. I felt low energy. I wasn't able to focus so much at work. I felt like I just wasn't recovering from exercise. wasn't even getting good quality sleep. And so I wasn't happy with that 450 testosterone. Well, he said, you know what, JC, you're not low enough. You're just not low enough to do testosterone. And I kind of was like, oh, okay. Well, then I knew other friends that were going to these clinics, and they were all going to these clinics getting on testosterone, but they were all getting the same dose, the same kind of like program. And I didn't feel something about that didn't seem right to me. So I kind of researched it and found that, hey, we're all different. And so I want to do whatever I can to optimize my testosterone levels. So at that time, it was like 5 or 6 years ago, I started researching natural ways to boost testosterone, and I was able to do that over the last probably 3 or 4 years. And these are things that that I share with my patients. So this is the things we share with both men and women, how to optimize testosterone, but also just to optimize all aspects of our lives. So I want to sleep the best I can. I want to recover from workouts the best I can. I want to feel like what I'm eating, what types of foods I'm deciding to eat is giving me purpose, is fueling my body. And so I try to do the things that I feel is going to give me both optimal function and longevity. So I feel better now at almost 48 than I did at 38, and I feel stronger. I feel more energy, and so yeah, I can talk about kind of like protocol wise now what we've kind of like dialed in with what I do and with what our patients and some of the stuff with what you. So I mean, it's kind of all over the place, from supplements, peptides, testosterone itself, as well as how I exercise, how I eat. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. Just kind of you kind of tell me where you want me to begin, and I'll dig there.
Yeah, let's start with where you think you get the biggest bang for your buck. And, I'll start with that. So when I was 27, 28, I got into triathlon. And during that time period, I reshifted my entire focus to health and wellness protocols over a 5-year period, really, from 2009 until 2014. And for me, exercise was where I ultimately got the biggest bang for my buck, because all of a sudden that started fueling mental clarity, unlimited energy
Yes.
throughout the day. It made me want to eat better. I had to start doing some of my recovery protocols in order to continue exercising at the volume that I enjoyed. And I just felt like I got the most progress from exercise, where every day I was able to just push the ball forward a little bit more,
Nice.
specifically with running, biking, and swimming. And, I've layered other habits on top of those since then. But I think it's interesting what people ask me questions about. Sometimes I feel like the questions I'm getting asked are just the icing on the cake, and they're not thinking about, do you have the foundation first? Exercise, eating healthy, sleep, some of these key things. So for me, it was exercise, and then, habit stacking on top of those things, and it just became the snowball effect in the right direction.
Yeah, I think, gosh, that's so funny you say it. So I think for me, the best bang for the buck would be exercise for me. I think I've always since I was a young boy, one of my favorite, I guess, comic book characters and shows was the Incredible Hulk. I've
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to be strong, and I've loved going to the gym and pushing my body, whether it's endurance types of style of training, strength training. I've never gotten away from that. I feel like you said, when I'm pushing myself, when I'm exercising, I want to get the benefits, but I also notice, like, when I eat a certain way, I get better rewards, better return on my exercise versus
Mm-hmm.
eating like crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the exercise for me is kind of like that catalyst that gets me to, hey, I got to sleep. I got to sleep great, and I got to get good quality sleep to recover from this workout. I got to eat, put the right fuel in my body so that I can rebuild from this workout. And so
Mm-hmm.
exercise for me, I think, is also it's become a passion and a little bit of like kind of like my meditation.
Mm-hmm. Same
In
for me.
fact, yeah, yeah. In fact, it's like I don't feel right. I feel off if I'm not getting frequent workouts throughout the week. If I miss 2 or 3 workouts because work's too busy or certain other obligations, it affects my mood. It
Mm-hmm.
affects my energy. So it's like that is, like you said, it gives me energy and it gives me motivation, and I like the way I look as I keep pushing
Mm-hmm.
the envelope with exercise.
I love that you mentioned mood. I love that you mentioned
Yes.
energy. I love that you said feeling off, because for me, exercise has become medicine for my mind, emotional well-being, my spirit. Like, I always tell people, the aesthetic is a byproduct. Like, I'm doing this for performance, and not the performance that, people might think. Like, not because I want to go win some race. It's
Right.
because every single day I want to be the best version of myself. And I know that exercise, eating healthy, getting enough sleep, all of those things are going to affect how I feel, how I perform, from a mental clarity standpoint,
Yes.
from, a not being stressed out standpoint, from a not being anxious standpoint, like all of these, common problems we have, that a lot of them we've created. But, that's what it is feeling for me, is just
Yes.
well-being.
Well, in fact, when I first started telling you about 6 or 7 years ago ish, when I felt like my testosterone was low, it happened to be that time when I sustained a pretty crazy neck injury where I herniated 3 discs in my neck, and I lost a lot of strength, and it had a lot of atrophy in my right shoulder, arm, chest, even the whole right upper extremity was just a mess, and I was not able to exercise for the way I normally did for a good 3 or 4 months, and I actually became very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that lack of exercise, that loss of strength, the lack of having that routine, it affected me so much where my mood was not what it used to be, and I think that caused my testosterone to drop
Mm-hmm.
significantly. The lack of just pushing my body and just kind of giving my body that medicine. I like how you put it, that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was just like determined to get that strength back. And long story short, I never planned to do this, but I started using the dip exercise. Like I shared this with you as a
Mm-hmm.
tool to kind of measure my progress. So I was not able to do one single dip at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I started kind of slowly kind of building up and getting to where I was doing sets of 10, 20, 30. Before I knew it, I was doing sets of 100. And then about a year and a half ago, I actually broke the world record for dips with a 60-pound a backpack on, and
Hmm.
this is something I never like planned on. Like, oh, I'm gonna break a record, but I think it goes to show you, what the body can do if you start to just kind of push it and give it what it needs. Because I just got so dialed in with like how to reduce inflammation in my body to allow my body to heal, but also to kind of just continue to work it and strengthen it. And it's crazy. There's like almost no limitations, as you know, being an
Hmm.
endurance athlete. It's like crazy what our bodies can do if we just kind of know how to respond to its training and give it the proper rest.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It's compounding consistencies in both directions. So
Yes.
compounding consistencies in the training. I think too often people don't spend enough time doing one thing in order to get really good at it. And it's also compounding consistencies in ridding yourself of that inflammation so you can do it day
Yes.
in and day out. So you can train hard. That's great. You're probably going to get to a pretty high level, but to get to the very best, you also have to focus on how can I perform well tomorrow? What can I do today to perform well tomorrow? And some of that has to do with the training, obviously in percentages, but a lot of it, I know for us, has to do with our recovery protocols, which for me, sauna, cold exposure,
Yep.
red light therapy. I know you're big into a lot of those.
Absolutely.
So, hot Epsom salt bath, there's things that
Yes.
are very accessible that people probably often overlook. But yeah, it's just building your day around those consistent consistencies.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it, man. I mean, it's like I love that compounding consistency. That's like such a great term, and it's everything from like your morning routine. And so, like, I try to, when the weather permits, try to always get up. And I feel like I tell patients this: the best night sleep, your quality of sleep, almost always starts with what you do in the morning. And
Hmm.
so we have something called our circadian rhythm, and it's that kind of like that shift in cortisol. It should be high in the morning and low at night, and then you have this increase in melatonin.
Hmm.
So cortisol, we have control over when we want to have that spike increase and be at a, so when the sun comes up, our body and our brain is designed to wake up when the sun comes up. However, a lot of us we're in our houses and we have walls and our windows are are shaded and everything like that. But when I know the sun is coming up, I try to get outside as soon as possible to kind of walk and move throughout the morning outside. I'll listen to a podcast or an audiobook or something like that, and I just feel like I'm waking up as I'm walking, and the
Hmm.
sun coming through my eyes. And then, so that's like part of my morning routine. And plus, being hydrated is another important piece of the puzzle. So I'll drink a good amount of water in the morning.
Hmm.
I will
Love that.
often add some Himalayan salt to
Hmm.
water. I'm a huge proponent of good salt intake. Sodium
Hmm.
intake is so vital and so important. Not a lot of people know this, but about 50% of our blood is salt, is sodium.
Hmm.
So I mean, we're like designed to have sodium. It's kind of like the media kind of scared us to think salt is bad, and that's kind of I hope that's been debunked, but it's really very vital for especially guys like us that are active and sweating and working out, need to replenish the salt. And so I drink a lot of water in the morning, hit that, throw that salt in there, and sometimes for digestion I'll add in some apple cider vinegar,
Hmm.
things like that. I've dealt with when I was younger some digestive issues, which I've since mitigated, but I love apple cider vinegar to kind of help get the digestion going. So that's kind of how I start my day. Walking. Then I'll kind of dig into some reading. I like to read, write, and maybe get a little workout in, some kind of active workout in the morning to kind of get the blood pumping.
Hmm.
Some body weight training, pull-ups, sit-ups, body squats, burpees, things like that. Some explosive movements, just something
Hmm.
quick to get my adrenaline going. And man, I just feel like after that, I'll hit a cold shower, and your just brain is like poof, just turned on. And so
Hmm.
everything's like going for the rest of the day, starting with getting that sun exposure,
Hmm.
hydration, movement, feeding the brain with good positive information. And I mean, I don't know what else is better than that. And it doesn't take like a whole like 2 hours to do any of this. By the way, I'm talking I
Hmm.
I, I cram all this in about maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could go for a walk with your dog, go for a walk with
Right.
your wife, take your kids for a walk. I mean, there's ways to multitask with a lot of it too. But I agree, getting morning light is so important. I mean, a lot of the top minds in health and wellness are talking about getting, at least 10 minutes of unfiltered
Absolutely.
light through your eyes in the morning. Um, and how much sodium are you targeting? Do you have a specific target in milligrams that you try to get each day?
Yeah.
Factoring in that you're working out for, 60
You,
minutes and maybe a sauna session?
yeah, it definitely varies. Like if I feel like a day where I've done like some like really hard workouts, I've sweated a lot, but I really shoot for like 4 to 6,000 milligrams every
Okay,
day.
you're getting a lot in. Wow, you
Hmm.
might be getting in more than me. Damn.
Yeah. Well, because here's the thing: it's like you're getting salt your body regulates it. So if you're taking in more than your body needs, you'll basically just urinate it out.
Sure.
And I know I'm getting, because like when I wear like my hats and I'm working out, like there's like the white kind of stain from from sweat in
Hmm.
my hat, but I'm like I just, my blood pressure, I know everybody's like worried about blood pressure. My blood pressure is perfect. It's never
Hmm.
been, I never had high blood pressure. No issues with cardiovascular risk or anything like that. But yeah, I'm usually at least getting, I'd say, 3,000
Hmm.
milligrams a day. But depending on the day, I'll purposely add more.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is on feel. I
It
don't
right,
by any means measure it, but I
right.
typically have an element or two elements, or I like this other brand called Good On Ya. A couple of their packets, and I think in each of those element packets, it's 1,000 milligrams of
Yeah.
sodium along with other electrolytes. But yeah, I think I'm probably upwards of 3 to 4,000 just in supplementation of sodium.
Right.
I really don't know, how much additional I'm getting in my food too, but
And that's where I'm taking into consideration, because I'll use certain apps and I'll enter the foods, and that's where I know, because you'll be shocked, Eric, how much more, probably 2,000 more milligrams from just the various foods
sure.
that you're eating. Especially good protein sources. There's often salt in meats and things like that, and so that's where I feel like I'm getting a good amount of sodium as well.
So you had an issue with testosterone in
Hmm.
your early 40s. Is that
Yes.
when you
Yep.
you had the labs done? Okay, and we've
Gosh,
talked about this.
I always lose track of how old I am, but yeah, it was like I was 40 years old I'm 47, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's about 7 years ago is when I did that test where it was low.
yeah.
So
I'm 42. What are the recent stats about testosterone? I know they're scary about how much it's decreasing every decade. What do you know the numbers off the top of your head?
yeah, off the top of my head. So what I do know is a couple things. So if you go back like to the 1980s, for example, the average the average guy like our age walking around had had a testosterone that's about 300 points higher than the average man today.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, every decade it seems to drop around 100 points. So men today, and I'm seeing it because this is what we do every day. Younger and younger men in their late 20s, in their 30s, having low testosterone. I'm talking testosterone in the 200s, 250,
Wow.
260, which is that is a diagnosis of hypogonadal. I mean, these men are
Hmm.
like, and it's like, it's more and more guys having these lower and lower testosterone numbers, and women.
Hmm.
And I mean, then the question is why? Like, what's causing this? You know? And so when you dig deep into this thing, it seems like there's a lot of environmental influence. There's lifestyle. There's a lot of different things that are getting into people's into their system. Use of plastics. Uh, you know, Household care products have phthalates, have parabens. You have like I said, plastics have BPC
Hmm.
and all these chemicals from that are in the water. In fact, in the United States, there's you've heard of glyphosate. There's another herbicide called atrazine, which is there's a legal amount of atrazine that can be in our water supply, and in many countries it's completely illegal. However, they've noticed that atrazine it acts like an estrogen. So when this estrogen, this fake estrogen is in your system, it will bind to the same receptor that your testosterone is supposed to bind to. And so the belief is that all these different, estrogen driving increasing products are wiping out the testosterone in men and in women. So it's causing just a huge hormone imbalance. And we've seen more and more problems with fertility happening. More and more. There was a study done not long ago. I don't know. I can't recall who did the study, but there is a prediction. They're thinking if the things continue, if the testosterone levels keep decreasing and the fertility rates keep decreasing the way they're going, like 90% of men will be sterile, infertile by the time of like 2050.
God, that's so close. That's right around the
Yeah,
corner.
right. Yeah. So it's scary, but I mean, it's at the same time, it's like you look how many people. I'm sure you know people. I know a lot of people my age that have had to go to fertility clinics to get to get pregnant, and it's just becoming like the norm anymore. So it's just kind of it's scary, it's frustrating, and I just feel like this is something that we have to get a handle on soon.
So what are some things that you would recommend? You mentioned water. I mean, getting spring water,
Yes.
or getting some kind of filter. What are some lifestyle changes that people should make to, or just be cognizant of as they're going through life?
Yeah, definitely the first is water, and it doesn't just end at drinking water. Of course, the water you shower in. We put at our house filters in our water to take out those chemicals, but absolutely filter your water. At the very least, put a carbon filter on your water. That can take out a lot of the estrogens and things like that. Be aware of the cleaning products you use. In fact, there's a website that we could share with listeners. It's called Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. You can go there. You can type in like the type of detergent you use to wash your clothes or different care products, and it will rate and show like it'll grade them. It'll give them like a C or a D or even an F, and then it'll also give you options of better care products that you can use, because I mean it's what we're putting on our body is often overlooked. Obviously what we put in our bodies is important, but what we put on our body is absorbed through the skin, and those things can definitely affect the endocrine system. Also, once again, plastics. So what I would recommend is using stainless steel, using glass as much as possible. We have very little. We have no plastics at our house, and it's just kind of people come and just they think it's weird, but it's just and even we don't microwave things in plastic. So those are things to pay attention to. Detoxification is huge, and so make sure you're sweating. That's another way to get these things out of that. Like I know you use a sauna. I have a sauna at my house. If you don't have a sauna, I mean, just do something to get your body sweating is important. But sauna is a great way to kind of flush out toxins as well. And yeah, I mean, these are things that you just kind of want to make a part of your day and part of your routine and part of to kind of just be a steward of your family and of your health. There's a lot more. I mean, let me think, in terms of like just, this is more like focusing on the estrogen part. I mean, but with testosterone, we can dig deeper into other things that potentially lower testosterone in ways to kind of like counteract that in terms of supplementation as well. So any other things that you thought of or have come across that you practice for boosting testosterone?
Yeah, I mean, we drink spring water at the house. I'm same with you that I think I consume so much water that I want to make sure I'm consuming the best water I possibly can. So we have water systems throughout our house with spring water bottles in them, 5-gallon Eldorado spring water right here from
Nice.
Colorado. So we drink that. I mean, for me, we've talked about this before offline, but anaerobic training, strength training, making sure that I'm getting at least 7, typically 8 to 9 hours of deep sleep every single night. I turn off my Wi-Fi at night. We leave our phones outside of the room. I mean, EMFs I'm definitely concerned with too, from that standpoint of what is this doing to our long-term health. So, and I've certainly wear wearables. I have a Coros watch on, so I'm not I'm not completely avoiding any of that stuff, but I am curious what it's doing. I like to know just where can we get the biggest bang for our buck? Because we're just surrounded now by so many things that we really don't understand what they're doing to our long-term health. So, I try to protect myself doing the highest yielding things, which I believe are, eating a healthy diet, eating whole organic foods as close to the source as possible. We've been sourcing our food from a ranch in South Dakota where it's grass fed, grass finished, field harvested.
Nice.
So no cortisol in the blood, the water component of it. And then just the exercise, anaerobic efforts, strength training, doing that 4 to 5 times per week, and then doing, aerobic efforts quite a bit, 6 times per week, but not nearly to the same capacity that I used to do it with my Ironman training.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you said something real important there. The EMF, that's another thing that's been known to be a disruptor of the endocrine system, and trying to have your phones away at night and away from you. I know like my kids, sometimes they have like their device near them, but also like you said, and then not staring into screens at night because
Mm-hmm.
it tricks your brain into thinking that's it's daytime. And
Mm-hmm.
so once again, now you're messing up that whole circadian clock, and you can get a cortisol spike at night where they've been able to measure this, where these kids are looking at screens late at night and they can't go to
Sure.
sleep, and so it throws things off. And one thing also you mentioned that I could touch on is there's been studies, Eric, that show that when men sleep like less than 7 hours, like for just a short period of time, for just like a couple nights, it can mess their whole endocrine system to the point where their testosterone levels can be significantly dropped. And we're talking it can look as though they're 15, 20 years older. We're talking men that are not getting the adequate sleep. That's why you should prioritize sleep. It's like one of the best things for overall health, but also testosterone. So sleep, EMF, and then of course when it comes to the foods, the meats, in healthy proteins, it's the source, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, the source of the meats is important. And I don't even categorize processed meats as meats,
Yeah.
and so like that's why I kind of don't. It irritates me when I hear about these studies where they say, oh, these diets where these people are following a carnivore diet, but and then you kind of dig deep and you notice a lot of them they're eating like hot dogs, or they're eating like
Mm-hmm.
processed meats, which isn't really even the same thing. So the quality of meat, quality of food is super important. I mean, we can even talk about diet there, because you have all these individuals preaching about a certain diet, and how I went vegetarian, I feel so great. I went carnivore, I feel so great. I went
Mm-hmm.
keto, I feel so amazing. I went, or I do this different diet, and I feel a lot of it is because they've they've cut out all the garbage,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
They've made a shift, and their body's like, thank you, because they're getting rid of all the processed foods and sugars and dyes and preservatives. That is what we're kind of like talking about, like eliminating from your life.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Just being cognizant of what you're putting in your body, and all of those diets will make you cognizant. So I have
Yes.
no doubt that each of those people that preach that diet feel great from it
Yep.
because they're cognizant of what they're putting in their body. I mean, ultimately, I'm a believer in eating meat, eating vegetables, eating fruit, all of these things that are plentiful from the land. That's how I eat. I've never really. The only thing I did during my Ironman years was I did a high fat diet and a low carb diet. I was never testing for ketosis, but
Hmm.
I definitely think there were times where I was probably in ketosis just from a mental clarity standpoint. And that worked really well for Ironman training in that I was able to go a very long time without having to eat and consume any carbs. But I don't think it was a good lifestyle choice. During that time period, I had high cortisol and low testosterone. And I definitely had lost a lot of muscle mass, some from the training, but some also because I just wasn't eating enough protein during that time period or enough carbs to be able to, maintain any kind of muscle mass. So I've since really upped my protein intake and upped
Nice.
my carb intake substantially.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Eric. So, like, believe it or not, when a lot of people, think of like different athletes or different body types in protein intake, let's say if you talk about like a bodybuilder, for example, the person or person that's trying to build a lot of muscle, obviously they're gonna, have a higher protein requirement than like a normal individual. But endurance athletes have much higher. protein requirement. So talk about kind of now. I'm just curious, like how your diet is today compared to how you said before you were, following more this diet that was kind of geared for like just crazy, Ironman,
Hmm.
training, and compared to today. Because I know today, like you're muscular, you're lean, and
Hmm.
everybody wants to be like Eric Hinman. So like, what is it
Hmm.
you're eating now today compared to how you used to?
Yeah, I mean the ratio of vegetables to meat drastically changed. I was eating a lot of vegetables then, and now I'm eating a lot more meat. I have meat every single night for dinner. Not always red meat, but chicken. We have buffalo ribeyes, buffalo burgers. We'll do fish maybe once a week. I should do it more often. I just haven't mastered the art of cooking fish yet, so I feel like I have started to master the art of cooking a steak and cooking burgers and smoking
Nice.
chicken on our Yoder smoker. But yeah, I mean, I just drastically upped the intake of protein specifically through meat. Back then, it was just lots of smoothies and salads, and I would have chicken on my salad at night, but I was not eating any red meat for several years. And the last 2 years, I've really got into red meat, 3 to 5 times per week
Wow,
for
that's
dinner.
awesome.
For dinner specifically, I eat light throughout the day. I actually just posted this today on social media, but I eat pretty light for breakfast and lunch because
Hmm.
I found that I only want enough food in my system to be able to physically perform, but I want to be
Love it.
mentally super, super sharp. And I'm sure everyone can relate to,
Yes.
you go out and you have a 16, 20 ounce steak, you're pretty lethargic afterwards. You want to go sit on the couch
Yes.
and watch football. And I don't want that during the day. So I avoid any of those foods that make me drowsy during the day because I want to feel really on and really energized and have tremendous mental clarity. And then in the evening, I'll have that bigger meal where it's typically, a 16-ounce steak and some potatoes and some kind of vegetable side. I mean, it's a lot of calories and it's probably a little
Yes.
too much protein in one meal, but it's worked for me doing that, building calories throughout the day, starting kind of light and then finishing with my largest meal, but not right before bed, doing it at like, 6 or 6:30. We go to bed around 9.
Yeah, nice. So I know there's a lot of like kind of discussion about caloric deprivation and fasting and
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the difference. And I've done both, and I can relate to because I've done bodybuilding competitions. It's been it's not bodybuilding, it was physique. So the bodybuilders won't. But I've
Mm-hmm.
done physique competitions, so I've done the cut my calories really really low to get my body fat as low as possible. And I'll tell you what, I was starving. Like I felt miserable all the time. I hated the way I felt. I just was doing it because I wanted to look good on stage.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've have transitioned into fasting where I don't think I got much different results, but I'm not hungry. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
starving myself all the time. And I have, like you said, to your point, much more mental clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I kind of liken it to is like our bodies are so smart, and when you're telling your body like I'm going to eat small meat, like small meals throughout the day, you are like basically you're hungry all the time, and your body's like, look, you're telling me you're only going to give me a little bit of food, so it slows down your metabolic rate, and you can kind of feel it happening. You're just not burning as many calories. And then versus when I'm fasting, it's like I eat I eat a big meal and then I don't eat for a few hours and then I eat a big meal and my body's like, oh, you're just gonna either not eat or you're gonna eat. But I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's the energy's there, the focus is there. I feel like I'm just getting building more muscle
Mm-hmm.
and losing less muscle. So I feel like for me, the fasting, when I'm fasting, I say maybe like a 16-8
Mm-hmm.
hour, a 16-hour fast, 8-hour feeding window is what I've been doing. I kind of move it around a little bit, but I feel like for me, the mental clarity is why I do it more than anything. But I also feel like I'm maintaining more muscle mass
Mm-hmm.
and am able to keep my body fat down going that kind of a eating style. And
Mm-hmm. I love that.
of course, what I eat is similar to you, like more healthy, cuts of meat. Like today I did chicken and some vegetables and things like that. But I just find that like eating small meals, my body's like, look, man, you need more,
Mm-hmm.
versus like fasting and then just in feeding your body after a workout or something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't snack, and I think that is one of the
Yep.
big keys to maintaining a lean physique is having your,
Yes.
3 meals, 4 meals, whatever it is, but not just like snacking on nuts all day. Like so many people, I just see them
Right.
constantly grazing, and I think that's a contributor to higher body fat because you're never really giving your body a chance to burn fat because it's just burning
Right.
the calories that you keep eating.
Yeah, and I was, years ago, and I was the guy too that like, oh, I learned you have to eat every like 2 meals or every 2 hours you have to eat a meal, and I was doing that like for years to try to build muscle, and when then I'm hungry all the time, and then all I did was change to six like meals to six smaller meals, so I was even more hungry to lose that that fat, but it just was miserable and just didn't feel like a normal healthy way to eat. So then I shifted to this more fasting, like you said, no snacks, just meals for function, for performance, and I feel it's like a night and day difference for me. So
Let's shift back to testosterone because I
yes,
think this is a topic that is super important for people to really understand. So we talked about some ways to naturally, raise testosterone, which I think are the foundation of how you should be living a healthy life.
yes,
But there's other options out there, and TRT is one that is often thrown out,
yes,
testosterone replacement therapy. It's something I often get, I'm going to use the word accused of doing, which I never have taken TRT. I can't because of some of the sports that I compete in.
right,
But I always find it as interesting that people think it's a form of cheating, and
right, right,
it is something that gives you the physique that you want,
right,
and yeah, I mean, my rebuttal always is like, hey, have you studied my last 15 years of my life to see how hard I've trained and recovered and
right.
how many different fitness capacities I've done? That's why I look the way I look. And I have a lot of friends that have experienced incredible benefits from TRT, and they're not bodybuilders. They're
Right.
doing it to feel better, to be more
Right.
energized, to be a better husband, and I just hate this. I hate this correlation of TRT just giving you this physique. That's what I get
Yes.
accused of often.
Well, I hope I can help put this to bed for you because I know your lab results. I know what they are, and I know your testosterone. I know you're not on testosterone replacement of any sort, and I know you're not even where I would consider where I would want to be if I were you. I mean, your testosterone levels are kind of like in the moderate to low
Yeah.
side of things, but you look the way you do because of your lifestyle, right? And so yeah, Eric Hinman is not on TRT. If anyone, but I know what your labs are, and so but also here let's talk about labs. So there's a study done where they took a large group of men, about 2,700 men, and they divided them into four groups, and they wanted to see like, okay, what levels of testosterone could potentially equate to like health conditions and things like that. So the first group was like these guys were like 250 and below. Then the next group was 250 to 350. Then it was 350 to 450. And the highest group was 450 to 550 and above, actually. And so they actually found that all of the guys that were below 550 had increased risks of cardiovascular disease and cancers. And the guys that were 550 and above had significantly reduced risks of cardiovascular disease and cancers. And so if you think about it, a lot of the men that have like prostate cancer and are older and their testosterone is in the tank. And so the truth is testosterone is a hormone that's important. It's unique compared to other hormones because our testosterone is a hormone that goes into the cell. It goes into the cell nucleus and actually helps helps the expression of our DNA. So it's very important for just the health of our body. For men and women, I like to call testosterone not a male hormone; it's a human hormone. So it's important for men. So the first thing to understand is like we need to get our testosterone levels back to where they used to be. And for men our age, it should be above 550 definitely. So the four I call them killers of testosterone, like we talked about on previous discussion, is cortisol. Like you said,
Mhm.
when you were training really hard, cortisol is high. Cortisol will wipe out testosterone. I experienced that when I used to overtrain, go to the gym 2 3 times, and think more is better.
Mhm.
It was wiping out my testosterone.
Mhm.
And this isn't just like major stress. I mean, you'd be surprised at just stress from someone cutting you off in traffic or
Mhm.
something minor that that burst in cortisol, you'll see a drop in testosterone.
Mhm.
So stress is a big killer. Cortisol is a big killer of testosterone. Another killer of testosterone is insulin. So a lot of Americans are just consuming too much food. So every time we eat a meal, insulin goes up. It's pushing all these sugars and energy from food into our cells, into our liver, and into our fat cells. And so all the time, most people don't ever go without food very, very long, except for when they're sleeping. So they're eating when they wake up. They're eating before they go to bed. Insulin is going to cause this gain in belly fat, which is going to affect testosterone. So insulin will wipe out testosterone. Another killer of testosterone is estrogen.
Mhm.
So many Americans are. I mean, we do this every day. We're measuring people's BMI, which isn't a very good indicator of obese. I'm obese if you look at my BMI for my
Mhm.
my height and weight. But a lot of Americans are overweight, have too much body fat. A lot of belly fat for men actually increases something called aromatization. Aromatization is what converts testosterone to estrogen, and what increases aromatization is belly fat.
Mhm.
So that belly fat will cause a conversion of testosterone to estrogen. So and the estrogen, once again, will compete with the same receptors. So estrogen will cause testosterone to become low in men. And the fourth is oxidative stress.
Mhm.
So a lot of us Americans consume a diet that has a lot of processed things in it, preservatives, dyes, things that put a lot of oxidative stress on our cells, and specifically for men, the Leydig cells of the testes,
Mhm.
which is what produces testosterone. And you only have so many years of damage to those cells that all of a sudden some guys just cannot produce testosterone anymore. So so you really want to follow a diet that has more of the antioxidant, effect that can help mitigate that oxidative stress.
Mhm.
So those would be the four, I guess, common killers of testosterone that I see. And when we start to address those things, the cortisol, the insulin, the estrogen, the oxidative stress, we start to see these numbers increase in men.
Mhm. Interesting. So, two of those things that you just said are very much environmental based. And I mean, one of the best moves I've made in life is coming out to here to Colorado, where the sun is shining every day. We're outside of the city, so I'm not dealing with traffic and trying to find a parking space and just
Cool.
constantly frustrated with life. I'm able to get outside easily every day, can mountain bike from the house, can run from the house. And, I've been cognizant over the years of picking an environment where I feel like I thrive. And I think that's important for people to hear. And some of these big cities where you might be harming yourself by just so much stress around you and so much oxidative stress around
Totally.
you. And
Yes.
it's kind of interesting, especially we were in South Dakota a few weeks ago at this Wild Idea Buffalo Ranch, and it was just cool to see the life they live on the prairie where, the family, they all have homes near each other. They definitely invite friends over often to have, communal dinners and communal experiences. They're eating from the land. They literally have this greenhouse that was as lush as Kauai with vegetables and fruits growing. They harvest their own meat with the buffalo right from their own prairie. They're deeply connecting with their family and their friends at the property, and
Awesome.
they're void of most stress that is often in major cities. So, and you just think back evolutionary, that's how we lived. We lived in these smaller tribes. We lived off the
Yes.
land. We lived being outside
Yes.
all the time. So I think
Absolutely.
it's important for people to think about, if you're able to pick your environment and you're able to design your life around your environment, this is going to have a big factor on testosterone and I think ultimate happiness and health span and lifespan.
Yeah, I mean, something you just touched on too with the oxidative stress component is, the lack of just being in nature. right? And
Yeah.
so that there's huge benefits to, one of my favorite things to do when my wife and I and my kids, when we go on vacation, is I love to go to places where there's a beach, because I take my shoes and socks off. I'll just walk on the beach. I feel just so relaxed and so just peace, and just my stress just like evaporates. But just it's that being in contact with the earth. And another thing too, I didn't even touch on earlier, oftentimes when I go for those walks, I try to go barefoot. I try to
Hmm.
just walk in the grass, or wherever I'm going, barefoot as much as I can, because that being in contact with the earth, being grounded, is so important, and something that we just kind of gotten away from with society, and not to mention just all the tech, all the gadgets, and all of the technology, and all of the different devices that we're attached to. I recently read some sort of I don't know if it's a science fiction prediction of humans, that we're evolving, so our technology is evolving so fast that they feel like our brains are shrinking because we're
Hmm.
not having to use them.
Hmm.
Because now it's like you can look anything up, and information is there, and it's good, but also at the same time we're not having to really think about or recall or use our memory, and that's not good. And so I think all those things you shared is important, because it's kind of getting back to the roots, getting back to like what's important. It's family, it's being in nature, it's if, gardening, making your own meal from from what you've grown, from what you've killed. From Obviously that's not always easy these days, but yeah, I mean the closest you can get to like what humans are meant to do, because we've actually moved so far from it. And I think that's a huge problem with our endocrine system. It's kind of like we're the only species that doesn't leave our environment when it affects our health, right?
Hmm.
We unfortunately we just go to a doctor and take a pill to mask the symptom. Symptoms are warning signs that something's going wrong and you need to
Hmm.
make a change. We don't change it. We just keep doing what we're doing, and hope that like the drug is going to fix it, which it's not. So, and that's why it's the stress, which these are, that causes cortisol. It's the inflammation that from cortisol that causes high insulin, and insulin causes inflammation. Estrogen, each one of those four kind of like feed into themselves. And so once you
Hmm.
kind of start to address those things, you can do it through lifestyle, you can do it through certain supplements, you can do it through just changing your routine can make a huge difference in just your overall health, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, preventative healthcare. I mean, you're going to pay one way or the other. You might have to pay more for organic meat, but if you don't, you're going to pay down the road with, some kind of heart disease or cancer, God forbid. Same with exercise. Sure, it hurts sometimes in the moment, but it's going to hurt a hell of a lot more when you're, 62 and, you fall down
Yes.
and you can't get up, or you break a bone because your bones are just too brittle. So, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these things now I think about it is like, do I want to pay now in the moment or do I want to pay after? But ultimately, too, like I've learned to enjoy all of these things that I do as well that might yield some discomfort in the moment, because I call it type 2 fun. I know how amazing I'm going to feel afterwards. The assault bike
Yes.
intervals, yeah, they hurt in the moment, but I'll tell you what, the rest of the day I'm on top of the world.
Yeah, I agree. It's like kind of like embrace the suck in that moment, because it's kind of, and I like I kind of like it also makes you just appreciate just like how how just we don't our lives are so much easier than humans were thousands of years ago. We don't have to like fend for our lives. We have abundance of food. I mean, I mean, a discomfort from a workout to me is like, wow, it gives me contrast. Like this is something that I'm gonna actually. It sucks right now, but I'm gonna actually reap benefits from. I'm gonna get stronger from. I'm gonna have better VO2 max or whatever, like from this grueling, rowing rowing workout that I'm doing. So yeah, I'm all I agree with that 100%. Just going and having that mindset, like it's like my life could be so much worse. So if torturing myself is doing a hard workout, then so be it, right?
Yeah, and I think there's also a smart way to do it too. And we talked about this. Like I said before, in those Ironman years, I had, high cortisol and low testosterone. I was training 25 hours
Right.
a week and it was too much. It was too much in one capacity. And, I feel so much better now doing much more strength training and much more anaerobic conditioning. And I still do a lot of aerobic conditioning. I just very rarely go over 90 minutes and more, I would say it's about, I don't know, 50-50 in training volume that I do, strength training, anaerobic conditioning. Obviously, there's a lot of rest periods in there, so I'm just taking the full duration of the workout. And then my aerobic training, which is typically 60 to 90 minutes in the afternoon.
Okay.
So it's pretty much like balanced to 50-50 now, whereas in the Ironman days, it was very much, 90% was the endurance training and 10% was the strength training and very little anaerobic conditioning. And I think we both agree that the strength training, anaerobic conditioning, and 45 minutes of aerobic training sprinkled in here and there is going to
Yes.
yield the most bang for your buck, because muscle mass is such a major indicator of health span and
Longevity,
lifespan.
for sure.
VO2 max is such a major indicator of health span and lifespan, and you're going to get those things from strength training and the anaerobic conditioning.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. A doctor friend of mine, I was chatting with a while ago. He said that he feels, for like women, like my mom's in her 70s. Women our mom's age should be on testosterone because of the fact that it'll increase bone density, it'll increase muscle mass. Like you said, is like the kind of like the cornerstone of longevity, and it'll keep them out of the nursing homes. Because what really is we get older, we don't think about this right now, but like it's that risk of having a broken hip or broken leg or something from a fall. It is catastrophic for the health. I mean, the studies, the stats are like I mean, the mortality is like within 2 or 3 years. I mean, a lot of times they die from complications of that broken hip, and like I said, in like their 70s and of course 80s, and it's getting those hormones optimized, making sure they have that muscle mass and they maintain that strength, and you've been able to transform your training and your body from like all endurance to strength training. Just curious, like has that affected your endurance? Do you feel by focusing more on like resistance training and strength training?
Yeah, I mean, I typically do, I definitely would fall apart on a 2 hour run or a 5 hour bike ride now. I'm not as durable as I used to be, but again, like I'm doing this to feel good day in and day out. I'm 42 and
Yes.
I'm not looking to win Ironman races. I'm not looking to win CrossFit competitions. Ultimately I'm looking to just be the best version of myself every day and feel really good day in and day out. So, the strength training and anaerobic conditioning has led me to that. I'm the strongest I've ever been. I am definitely the most anaerobically fit I have ever been. I am the most aerobically fit, probably up to 30 minutes right now.
Nice.
Maybe not running. Running is very sport specific, but everything else, I think I probably have more aerobic capacity in that under 30-minute time domain. Even an hour time domain if it's functional fitness. Once you get 2 hours plus, then, it becomes very sport specific in that you need lots of durability with, whatever you're doing in that time domain. But I just feel better. I mean, that's the key for me now, is just feeling better. Again, I'm not looking to, to put my ego out there and try and win things anymore.
Yeah, I mean the fact is guys old our age should be focusing more on that resistance training. I always tell guys, if you go to the gym, try to jam that workout in as fast as possible. Just it's more about intensity versus like duration. And so a lot of people think like, oh, runners must be they're the healthiest people. They have the healthiest hearts. And it's actually, if you look at the studies, it's actually the contrary. That long distance running has been shown to oftentimes cause scarring of the heart, and I've seen this in study after study. Especially, what do a lot of like marathon runners and long distance runners? What's their diet consist of? You can tell me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are plant based. A lot
Yes,
are high
yes.
fat diets. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of like carbs and things like that. But when their body is when anybody's system is burning carbohydrates as an energy source, especially that high demand, of running long distances, it can put demands on the heart, and they've seen scarring on the heart. I used to work at races when I was in California. I used to kind of like a volunteer, and I swear, like every probably 10th or 12th race, it seemed like someone would collapse from a
Yeah.
heart attack.
Yeah.
And it was just devastating. Where these people are just out running, and I love running. I love competing, but it's just like the human body isn't really designed to have the type of diet that we do, and push it like we do. There seems to be some kind of like disconnect there. But yeah, where people are dropping dead, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I mean, I've had friends whose parents that were, and we're talking like, serious runners running 5, 6, 7 days a week and,
Right.
Marathons every other month and ultra marathons. We're not talking about the recreational runner that's going out there and, logging 10 miles a week, 2 4-mile runs. We're talking, people that are doing marathons consistently or ultra marathons consistently.
Right.
And I've had several, friends in that realm that have passed away, 50s, 60s, like pretty young for how fit they looked,
Right.
and how healthy it looked they were living their life.
Well, and to that point, back to the testosterone and the exercise piece, I'm not nothing against runners. I mean, I ran for when I was a wrestler for cardio health, and nothing gets you in better shape, I think, cardiovascularly than running. But for boosting testosterone, probably the best types of exercise training that we can do is high intensity interval training, HIIT training. That short, quick burst where you're getting your heart rate up and bringing it down. That seems to have a better beneficial effect on the endocrine system and help boost testosterone, in addition to a lot of other things that we mentioned, proper sleep. And I can even talk about supplements that can help with, if people are interested, to combat cortisol, insulin, estrogen, as well as oxidative stress too.
Yeah, please talk about
Yeah.
supplements. I think.
So supplements I've seen. So there are certain products out there that can help with balancing cortisol. So a lot of us are, very stressed. Stress is something that humans just, obviously they call it fight or flight because it's for stress is for survival, and we wouldn't be alive without cortisol. However, we can just be thinking about bills we have to pay, thinking about a job we hate, thinking about just something stressful, a bad relationship, and cortisol goes up, and we feel like we're in a fight or flight state. And this is kind of like you said before, the environments that we're in, the cities, and the traffic and all the demands of life. So a supplement you can take is phosphatidylserine, which is a product that you can take off. Is one that you can take to help balance cortisol. There are other adaptogens that I often will recommend patients take, like ashwagandha, Euthero. There are certain complexes that have certain adaptogenic herbs, and they call it adaptogens because it helps you adapt to stress. So those are herbs and supplements that are available for people to help with stress. I often recommend people take ashwagandha, things like that, like later in the day, more at night, to kind of follow that normal circadian rhythm, because cortisol should be higher in the morning, right? So it makes more sense to take those products later at night. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
To drop cortisol. So, and then moving on towards like balancing or helping with insulin, a supplement I like to take is called berberine. It's really great for helping with blood sugar, with insulin. It helps put your body in a more of a insulin sensitive state versus insulin resistance. We also have a medication or a peptide we prescribe patients that have really issues with insulin resistance or even overweight. It's called semaglutide. It's known as a GLP-1 agonist, and what it does is it basically tells your body, it makes your body think you're full. So when we eat a meal, GLP-1 is increased, and our bodies are full, sends a signal to the brain, say don't need to eat anymore. And so these GLP-1 agonist medications are great because it makes people just not have an appetite and allows their body to utilize blood sugar more efficiently, and transitions their body into more of a insulin sensitive state. So so that's more of something that has to be prescribed. Then there's for estrogen, there are different products that can help men and women with the aromatization process. Zinc is an easy mineral you can take to help with aromatization. Just like 50 milligrams a day for men a day is good to help prevent the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. Another product is DIM, DIM, which is derived from cruciferous vegetables. Another product would be calcium deglucarate, which is a way to help your estrogen metabolites, kind of like be balanced better. So those are three for helping with estrogen. And then the oxidative stress, a supplement for oxidative stress is astaxanthin, which I don't know if I've even pronounced that right, but it's actually derived from sea like krill that are in the ocean
Yeah.
that whales eat. Really great source of astaxanthin, and that's actually been specifically helpful to, like I mentioned before, those cells in the testicles, the Leydig cells, to help them preserve and be protected from oxidative stress. So those are some supplements that you can add to the arsenal to help with um, some of these things that we can go a lot deeper with. I know you're into, like the gut health
Hmm.
supplements, the different like collagen powders
Hmm.
and things like that are amazing because gut health is super important too. In addition to all these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I do a prebiotic, probiotic. Obviously, you
Yes,
can get that from fermented foods, but also colostrum is something that
colostrum's
I've been
amazing.
taking lately.
Absolutely, colostrum's so beneficial for so many for all those things that we just talked about: gut health, joint health, connective tissue. Absolutely.
Great recommendations. Talk about labs. How often do you think people should be getting their lab work done to, test their biomarkers? Because it seems like these are things that
Yeah.
change fairly often. Specifically in, let's say, your 30s, 40s, 50s. What protocols would you recommend, and what things are you specifically looking for when you get those labs back?
Yeah, so like a good I think if someone out there in, like you said, any age range, 30s, 40s, 50s, should get a lab done now. It's great to see have a baseline of where you are. Let's say, you're feeling great, and you're feeling better than you ever have. Let's get a snapshot of your biomarkers when you're feeling great so that you can
Hmm.
have something to refer back to and have kind of keep a record of your labs. I personally get my labs done about every 6 months, and just because I just really before it was more frequent, but when I was trying to get things dialed in. So like, but it's good to get a baseline just at any point, whether it's good or bad. And then if there are things to work on, then you can, like for men for testosterone, if we start testosterone therapy, for example, we're going to look at their markers about a month after starting therapy because we want to compare where you were before you started, and now we want to see where you are
Sure.
at that point. And then we're going to monitor them more closely, like every quarter, just to kind of see how they're doing until they're kind of cruising along. But yeah, in general, about every 6 months to kind of see like where things are and compare certain markers, and if there are certain inflammatory markers that are not where you want to see them, let's come up with a program, and I like to see improvements, and so it's all about testing, not guessing. How do you know what's improving if you're not monitoring it? And so
Yeah.
I'm all about data, and that's why I wear like Garmin's and different things that monitor sleep, heart rate variability, and
Mhm.
UR2, like just ways to kind of see what's going on. But it's like and blood a continuous blood glucose monitor is another thing I like to see, like how every body is different, so see how like you might respond to say 40 grams of some sort of carbohydrate versus me. In fact, people, I have a daughter that's a type 1 diabetic, for example, and if she eats 40 grams of carbs from like bread or 40 grams of carbs from fruit, her body will respond completely differently. The
Mhm.
same amount of carbs. So measuring different biomarkers, seeing how your body responds to certain things, seeing how your body is improving with lipid panels, I don't think you can over test really with when it comes to optimizing and improving your health, but it's good to have a place to start and see where you are. So I think the right answer is like if you haven't had tests done in like at least a year, get tested today.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think of it as the dashboard on your car. Like, all of
Exactly.
the metrics on your car, but you don't know the metrics on your body. And it's crazy that,
It is.
science hasn't caught up to a point where we can have something more continuous. I love this, that there's the continuous glucose monitors out there.
Love it.
Yeah, I really hope at some point there's something, maybe you guys can do that eventually, is you just
Yes.
have like your dashboard all the time with like, monitoring it in the moment. You understand what is going on based on what you're doing.
One thing we're working on it now, Eric, is that so there's a blood panel test we're working on, kind of looking at look at different areas of the body, of course, like the liver, the kidneys, the heart, the inflammatory markers, stress, hormones,
Great.
micronutrients, things like that, and then from there coming up with a customized, unique protocol based on your labs, based on your history. And it could be supplements, lifestyle. That's what we're working on right now, because I feel like the problem with our current model is, number one, people don't think they need to get labs tested until they are symptomatic or sick
Yeah.
or have some kind of symptom. And then what the problem is, it's like they have something pops off, and the problem is the doctors today are trained to give you a medication to treat a symptom.
Sure.
And to me, I like to equate it like as if you're driving, like you said, in your car and your dashboard and the check engine light goes off. All you do is, I'm going to take a pill for that. You're just basically taking a piece of black tape and putting it over that light, and you're just kind of driving. You're not
Yeah.
really looking under the hood. You're not really addressing the problem of why
Yeah.
that check engine light came on, which is a symptom. So that's why we want to kind of like go a different route and say, hey, we're going to look at your body, look at your health, and we know you want to feel better than you, or you want to maintain feeling the way you do, and not feel like garbage. So we want to, kind of, like you said, we want to invest now, and instead of wiping out your finances later from some kind of who knows what, heart disease or whatever.
Yeah, I told you before we jumped on this that I used to get allergy shots when I was
Yeah.
young, and it's amazing through exercise, eating healthy, getting enough sleep, like all of those allergies I once had, and they continued even after the allergy shots. I used to always have a, season where I was sneezing and my eyes were itchy from pollen or dust. But when I started with the Ironman training and really shifted my life around health and wellness, all of those ailments went away. It was crazy. All of those allergies that I once had, they went away. I never get sick anymore. I did get COVID. I think everyone got COVID, but
Right.
it was literally one day where I felt a little run down and then I bounced right back. But I never get sick. I haven't had the flu. I don't get colds. I never get sick anymore. And again, it's because of a lot of these protocols.
Well, it's kind of like, you have a virus or an infection or whatever going around. Everyone's exposed to it, and how come it's only a select number of people get sick, but not everybody does.
Yeah.
It's because it's the terrain. It's not the bug. It's not we're always around bacteria and viruses. It's like you said. It's keeping that foundation strong, and healing, keeping the gut healthy, and keeping the immune system healthy, optimizing vitamin D, optimizing testosterone, getting adequate sleep, exercising. I mean, here's the thing. The reality is, like we both talked about this in the beginning. If there was one, if there was, well, there's maybe two. If there was one thing I would say is like the absolute best medication, it's exercise. If you could put exercise in a pill, and if everybody did
Yeah.
it would cure. So I mean, it would like prevent so many things, maybe even cure so many things. In addition to adequate sleep, those are the two most important, I think, pillars of health that there are: exercise and sleep.
Yeah. And they're both natural things you can do. You don't have to buy anything. You just have to,
Yeah,
you have to exert some effort and
you just have to use your body, exert some effort, and then rest.
yeah,
And,
I
and,
love
and
that.
guess what the best remedy for sleep is? Exercise.
Yeah.
You
Crazy.
do a really,
It's a snowball
you do,
effect.
yeah, you do a really, really hard hit training workout, you're going to sleep so well. If you, what I noticed when I do a hard exercise, a hard hit training routine, and I'm out like, somewhere where it's sunny, I never sleep better, because the melatonin is produced through the sun, through your eyes. That's where
Yeah.
that whole process begins. That's why get sun, get adequate sleep, but it comes from all of those things: exercise, hydration. Yeah, it's all like we all kind of put it together here a little bit. So
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Where can people find you? The website, your Instagram, share where people can, message you any questions they have, or, get their labs done so they can,
yeah,
have their dashboard.
Yeah, so great. Thank you for that. So you can go to blokes.co. That's BLOKES.co. That's our men's website. We actually have a female site as well. It's called
Mhm.
Choose Joy. That's choose with and then joy is spelled JOI.co. That's where you can go and we can get you set up to get some labs ordered and find out like what your health goals are, if they're with hormone optimization or if they're with some peptide therapies that we also offer. And then you can go on Instagram. I'm Dr. JC. That's JACEY. Dr. JC on Instagram. And we also have a Blokes. It's called Get Blokes on Instagram. So you can message us there. Uh, you can message us or call us. We have an 800 number on our website, so we're pretty easy to get a hold of. We just want to help as many people as possible, and that's why we love guys like you, Eric, because we're so congruent with what you're preaching also. So
Agree. I love what you guys are putting out there. And it was such a simple process. I mean, for me,
yeah,
it was driving 5 minutes to a local medical facility and having the blood drawn, which took 5 minutes. And then I think 7 days later, we were on the phone going over everything. So it's a pretty quick
awesome.
process.
Yep. And your lab panel was more extensive. Some of the more common ones, like for like a men's hormone panel, we can get the results back in like 2 or 3 days. So,
Incredible.
yep.
And you guys do food sensitivity.
Food sensitivity. We do food sensitivity, heavy metals. We could, urinalysis. Like I said, we're getting ready to roll out a more comprehensive panel that's going to allow us to look at all the different body systems as well as recommendations based on what your labs show, what your history is, what your goals are. So we're really the end of the day, it's more of a customized, individualized approach versus anything cookie cutter, or it's not at all a one size fits all because every body's different. So.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing. When are you going to be back out in
Appreciate it.
Denver? Are you going to come here for the
We're
cold exposure
planning.
thing?
We're planning to come out in
Awesome.
In December, right? Is
Yeah,
that what,
yeah,
yeah,
it'll be plenty cold then.
yeah,
Plenty cold water.
yeah. So I'll be out there for that, and I'm excited to hang out with you again and get a good meal in and get a good workout in and whatever else we're gonna do.
Same.
Excited.
Looking forward to that.
Awesome,
Thank
brother.
you. Appreciate your time.
All right, thanks a lot, Eric.
All right, just don't go anywhere. I think it has to upload. So I think if I do stop.